I locked in ban, leaving Hunter up at the start, and I've just got to deal with this. No, like Bunnyhoppor going into this match against Bozzzton has chosen to leave Hunter up, as have all the other players across the weekend that have done it, right? So it's not like when you build a lineup and submit it, actually line up for the tournament, right? Your bans are flexible between matches. Sorry.
Yep. But enough about the other decks. Let's dig down into some of the stuff we're going to be seeing here. It looks like Bunnyhoppor's evolved Galakron Shaman is going to be coming to the forefront. Again, point I've made multiple times over the last 2 days, but I'm a big fan of the Europe players just really coming with this deck as opposed to the Totem Shaman, which I kind of agree with like TJ's assessment last night on the Americas broadcast, where he said like no matter how hopeless it feels, no matter who's playing, no matter what the matchup is, just root for the Totem Shaman player. Like I think that's absolutely true. There's just something incredibly endearing about that deck. I just don't think it's very good, and I think this one is a much more functional build of Shaman that can actually win some matchups in this format.
Yeah, one of the ever ongoing truths is that you do like to root for the underdog almost, no matter who you are, right? You just want to see the
generally I'm not like that. Like I actually really like to root for the guy that's winning everything. I actually get interested in sports just because there's like an all-time great playing it right now. Therefore, I would like to watch it just to see like what the best that's ever happened in this thing is happening right now. So I'm not an underdog kind of guy, but for some reason, Totem Shaman is just the most charming deck in all of Hearthstone. Like whether it wins or loses, just like, oh, look at those little totems. Oh, they're massive now.
That's it, right?
Great.
It's silly enough, isn't it? And it's silly enough in a not you're playing a Yogg box on turn 6 silly, but in a silly way where it's like, why are these totems beating up that person? They're like, what's going on with this? But you can see the players are just about getting ready to, I believe what they were just in their test game, just to make sure the functions are fine and all the ready to go. But yeah, it's going to be a tough one, especially considering talking about that Shaman. Bunnyhoppor has had quite the positive outcomes from his evolves in the
that's true.
The weekend. Bunnyhoppor just I think what did he do? Just 3-0 stomp its first match of the weekend. One of those evolved games was just the best evolves I think I've ever seen from 4-drops.
It was insane. Just like Nozdormu the Timeless, Armet, just like all the best possible 4-drops that you can come up with in the given situation. When he just needed raw stats, he just got 4 mana 8/8s. When he was playing minions the same turn, he got Armet, and then suddenly he just everything that he played afterwards had 7 health. Like he was actually embarrassed to look at his camera
yeah, he
at
could
one point
not look.
as to how gross he was feeling with how bad he was high rolling yesterday.
Yeah, and here we go. Game number 1. It's the second semi-final of the day. If you are just tuning in, we've already had one match where Swids is going to be waiting for whoever wins this in the final of the final Swiss portion of Grandmasters. Bozzzton on the top on the Hunter, Bunnyhoppor on this Shaman along the bottom as well. Go back to a new segment I feel like I'm going to go in here is going to be me just judging players' Hunters lists. And as I mentioned at the start of the weekend when we saw Bozzzton play, he is running a bit of a strange package in the Hunter, not something we've seen too often, with the secret package of a Phase Stalker, a Freezing Trap, and a Snake Trap. Definitely a question mark for me, at least on that Freezing Trap in the current meta. I feel like it slots in too well, although it did have a good over against the Mage. I can't remember who was playing it, but the other match versus Mage where the Freezing Trap did some work. But overall, not the cleanest list, I think, for this meta game, but we'll see how it pans out for him. He is here in the semi-final number 2, so he's done something.
There's little time.
Bunny, in classic Bunny fashion, roping the decision of Blazing Battle Mage on 1. Good on you. Wouldn't expect anything less.
Yep, to be fair, Bunnyhoppor only promised us one quick match of the weekend, and that was Bunnyhoppor versus Yarn. He never agreed to a second.
Ooh. Nice looking curve.
Also,
could just Hero Power to get more health on the board?
I think he should, because although it's a good curve in terms of he can play a 1-drop and a 2-drop into a 3-drop, his 3-drop doesn't hit anything because Bozzzton's Sharpshooter just decimates this board. I like the Hero Power for the Totem.
I mean, the fact that his 3-drop probably doesn't get good value is kind of an argument to play the Novice Engineer instead, right? To find something else to do potentially next time.
But if you hero power, it's likely, unless you get the 1-1, that the flanker can hit something, right? That would be my thought pattern.
No. Oh, sorry. So in your, so in my head, that bump always happens. And my plays are engineered around making that bump happen because I want to make it.
So as is often the case, we're both right. I was thinking that.
I mean, that was the missing link as to why we didn't understand what anyone was talking about that turn.
But yeah, if there was a hero power and it wasn't the 1-1, then face means that there's 4 health on the board and only a guaranteed 3 on Bozzzton's side, which means something's lives to then Bogstruck flanker on it as well. That was how my brain was simulating the turn.
Alright. Time for Bunnyhoppor to get his clacker out, I think.
Yep, can I interest you on a 3-mana 3/3?
Certainly can.
In some matchups, you could argue for the Invocation of Frost. I think versus Hunter, specifically, just because of the nature of how aggressive it is a lot of the time, then that is going to find a good target very soon.
I think just the combination of that plus Invocation of Frost, like 3 damage on board plus the 2 damage rush, just kind of stalls out anything Hunter can really do this turn. They have a bunch of 3/5s that they can play with coin, and they have, Animal Companion, which, same thing, a lot of the time has 4 health. So, yeah, I just like having a 3/3 here.
Really like to see the coin Mana Saber as a response to this, because Bozzzton will know that the Knuckles aren't available next turn, so he doesn't have to kill whatever he plays. The Mana Saber opens up a few other options, especially with the Rotnest trait as well, if he really wants. And also, it just means there aren't ways to trade into it, right? If he plays the Evasive Feywing or his Dragon's Bane, well, there are a lot of chances of it just getting farmed. So, Mana Saber ticks the box.
For sure.
You just said "Boar, sure." So I was like, look, we've already got 2 players with names beginning with B. We can't start talking about ball control as well.
What to do?
I wonder if it's going to be hair this turn. Just go for the setup.
Just tempo it and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, Desert Spear feels bad, but I think Desert Spear might have just been equipped to the coin. Unleash, again, feels bad. It's an Unleash off-curve, though. I guess not off-curve, because the attack means the hero power for the Mana Saber. I don't know. I just feel like Bunnyhoppor needs to do something, and I feel like all these other options...
There's little time. What to do?
Hero power and Evocation of Frost instead, though. Goes a little... Well, okay, it doesn't go wider on the board, but puts a little bit different values of health on the board instead of just the tone being 0/2 means that Unleash doesn't quite look as good. Bozzzton...
I wonder.
It's so weird. Both players have... Or at least Bunnyhoppor having a weird turn or a bad turn means that Bozzzton's turn isn't really that straightforward either.
Yeah.
It's so weird that happens sometimes, right? Like your opponent having a weird turn or a worse turn just throws you off completely. Although I wonder now if this is just where he can afford to just drop his base stalker.
I think tempo here is important because I think what Bunny was trying to do is just say, well, I'm not really under any pressure. I'm at 30 health. I can just kind of afford to take this slow and just, maybe just have a Bogspine Knuckles turn just straight up next turn. And then the turn after that, I have Hares and Dread Corsairs and all this stuff, and I have my power turn. So Bozzzton playing hard for tempo here kind of denies that, because it's not like Bunny can now just have a set-up Bogspine Knuckles kind of turn. So I think it was really important to just push as hard as possible.
Yeah, just interesting how a freezing trap or snake trap would have impacted that, right? Because if the trades happen anyway, then the board either gets bigger or smaller on each player's side, depending. But yeah, this definitely doesn't look too bad. Just getting 6-5 on the board seems fine to me.
Wow, looks like Bunny's just going to do it anyway.
Bozzzton
Might just swing here anyway, just to kill up one of the
though.
minions.
Little
Sure.
What if he doesn't swing and goes double hair next turn, and with Bunnyhopper's rolls on evolves, that's probably just going to be lethal.
It's just infinity damage coming back the other way, though. That's the problem. It's not like, am I scared of having this weapon? It's, am I scared of having any health left at the end of this turn? Ooh, okay. I thought that was a much bigger rush minion. I just saw green border and 5 and got very excited.
I think it was their matron, which would have been insane.
It is Bizarre Mugger.
Rip the Dragonbane. In this outcome, Bunnyhopper still, of course, has the double desert hair with the knuckles. So it's not like him swinging and negated the outcome of the potential for his turn 6. Also has the slightly more flexible Corrupt Elementalist if you need to do some removal with the 2 extra 2/1. I think I like getting this Dragonbane down though, because the knuckles only do 4, and the Dragonbane has to die. And even if he misses and hits face with the Dragonbane, well, the 3/5 and the weapon then has to go in, or there has to be an invoke plus the weapon anyway. I don't know. Some disagrees. Take out the 3/5, space dog it down without hero power. Go that a little bit wider. Bunnyhopper doesn't play 6 rabbits on the board this turn.
I know. Then nothing makes sense anymore, right? Like,
he's just going to be called Hopper going forward.
Yeah, that's fair. No, not even that, because that's a Bunny reference as well. It's going to be called Stander.
No, I've heard of Stranger Things. Okay?
Human Stander. That will be his new name if he did not make that turn.
Those are pretty decent.
Well played.
Well.
Yeah, high tier 4 drop for sure. Scorpid, very low tier 4 drop though. Unless, you know, specific scenarios where 5 damage is good. But getting 2 minions that can immediately attack as well, pretty solid.
Yeah, and also, it's weird as well. If you look at him in isolation, the Scorpid's bad. But with a big taunt in the way, it, you know, can protect it. 5 attack. Like I said, it's huge. Really surprising though, honestly. I felt like the Dragonbane was such a good play last turn.
Why?
Because it had the chance to clear the board and it has to be answered, whereas what Bozzzton left on the board was nowhere near as threatening, in my opinion.
Sure.
Which means
so you're saying
which means Bunnyhopper's much more comfortable with this double evolve turn. He might have had to play the Elementalist, which is way slower.
right.
What?
You're saying because Bozzzton didn't give like a must-kill target, Bunny was
Right.
just free to evolve whatever he wanted that turn.
Exactly.
That's fair.
And he didn't even hero power for the secret, right? To make Bunnyhopper go, oh wait, if this is freezing trap, does that get weird? If this is snake trap, is that a little bit more awkward with a wider board? I don't know. I feel like Dragonbane is almost has taunt, and Bunnyhopper didn't have a great way to clear it off. Bozzzton has to do a lot of work to get to this Alexstrasza to make it mean something.
There is little time.
Although he's going into turn 7, so Cena and Bran is available if he can draw it, of course. So this board might just be a little bit too wide for it to make a difference.
Yeah, it's looking that way. even at 6, Corrupt Elementalist is just such a good card when you have board state already. Like, when you have board consolidated and you're just playing this as a, well, kill the stuff you played that turn and I'm going to hit you in the face with all my minions. Oh, it's good.
And it's even a little bit different. I was going to make a slight mistake and say, well, it's a 6-mana 3/3 that deals 4, which is good. It's a 6-mana 3/3 that deals 2 twice to potentially separate targets, which is obviously even better because it's just more flexible. Now Tamer Brand going to come down. It was drawn, which is normally, if you see that on curve as Hunter, we're feeling pretty good about life. But even now, I don't really know what he hits. The Violet Teeth is arguably the strongest minion on the board, full stop. There's what, how much damage there now?
13.
Yeah, indeed. And you can just use the Scorpion to just kill off the Crush pretty cleanly. Interesting.
Nice.
A little bit surprised he used the Mutate. I didn't know if he was going to trade the Light Spawn, and because the Light Spawn becomes a 1/1 that's a 4-drop, to just evolve that into a completely refilled 5-drop.
Yeah, I mean, it was very similar, right? Because he traded the 3/3 first, so it was a 3/1 that he then evolved into a 7-drop instead of a 5-drop. So probably a bigger improvement overall.
And now he could just put the Light Spawn into the King Crush, which obviously just lines up a little bit cleaner anyway.
Yep. Yeah, I like doing it this way. Makes sense.
Yep, looks good to me. And that Far Sight, although not played this turn, is just a nice little bonus. The following turns from there, and this Dragon Pain does not look like, and it's still in hand.
Well
Could have played that in a very safe fashion there. Unfortunately for Bozzzton, but Bunnyhoppor takes game number 1. I feel like any game Bunnyhoppor can play any form of rabbit-type animal, and we feel pretty comfortable as he takes another win with that Shaman deck.
Yeah, well, I mean, weirdly enough, this was kind of one of the big talking points of GM last year, was Bunnyhoppor very early and very persistently had a lot of faith in Shaman. And it's weird to just see it all the way coming around, where clearly he doesn't want to be playing Shaman right now. Like, this wouldn't be in his choice of lineup, but it's just weirdly fitting that, like, the Quest Shaman Master from Europe in last year is now just continuing to find success with a completely different Shaman deck, because, you know, Thrall just seems to give him what he needs, you know?
Yeah, it seems to be looking pretty good overall for Bunnyhoppor. And again, as I said, taking nothing away from Bozzzton as a player, but more just with the respect for Bunnyhoppor. He is a scary opponent, and Bozzzton really does need to win this match to give himself a chance at that Division 8 finish. We are going to go to a quick break while we get ready for game number 2. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to continue Bozzzton versus Bunnyhoppor.
If I had to be handcuffed to another Grandmaster for an entire month,
Maybe I should choose someone I don't like and annoy them.
I'd want it to be someone that doesn't really do a lot, so they wouldn't be like in the way, causing a lot of problems.
Well, the thing is, I already live with Muzzy, so it really kind of feels like we're handcuffed in a way. Things wouldn't be too different, except for bathroom breaks.
It would probably be Pavel. Pavel's pretty skinny, you know, I can move him around and just go wherever I want.
I'd probably choose Bunnyhoppor. I've spent the most time with Bunnyhoppor recently, and we get along pretty well.
Princey, probably. He's my best friend here.
It would probably be Zalea. A large problem would be food, and Zalea knows how to find the cheese. So just being handcuffed to Zalea would allow me probably to have more access to more cheese. Is Zalea obsessed with cheese? Yes. It's a problem.
I think it would have to be Eddie. He's a good guy.
Papa Jason, because he is a vegan, and so whenever we go out and have food, I can have all the meat, and he'll just have all the veggies that I don't like to eat.
I'd pick Papa Jason. He's very positive, and I don't think I'd get annoyed being around him. I think with some of the other GMs, they might start to get to me after a while.
You know, you're not the first person that said that. The other people said because he's a vegan, so.
Oh, because he's vegan? Oh, because I get all the meat? Well, that's a way more clever answer. Use that. Just put my voice instead.
We are back and going to continue the semi-final number 2 between Bozzzton and Bunnyhoppor. Bunnyhoppor leading the way here in a 1-0 lead with his Evolved Shaman, who starts to play more to play and has this Mage available to him as well if he does want to go there. Meanwhile, Bozzzton taking a loss on Hunter means that he can choose any of his 4 decks to play if he so desires. Well, not if he so desires, I think he has to pick one. After the choice, I'm not going to bother. But no,
you know what?
But
Nah,
I'm done.
just not that into it anymore. Forget about it.
Might not be after that game anyway, but no, they are going to continue to play out. Of course, first play to 3 is going to be going to the finals to play versus Swids to see who wins the final week of Swiss for Grandmasters, and then the next following weeks, 4 weeks of round robin conquest format. Looking forward to that, but for now, I'm going to be happy to finish off the week with the next 2 matches we've got coming up here. Sounds like they're going into their game. I don't know who they're going to be picking into, but we'll see. Who are you fancying here? Sol, what decks do you think you're going to choose? Oh, never mind. Doesn't matter. Can't say now.
Well, I think it's going to be Shaman versus Paladin.
Wow.
Nailed it. I mean, I still would have cheated because I'd already seen it on Spectator at that point anyway. It's just I didn't... You deprived me of the chance of cheating, Raven.
I'm okay with it, but now it is the cutest deck in Hearthstone, I guess, if we're judging from what we talked about earlier, in that you just want the Shaman to win if it's the Totem variant. Yeah.
Yep.
TJ will no doubt be happy to see Bozzzton lock this in. Bunnyhoppor, meanwhile, is going to be on that Highlander Paladin, and I don't actually think this is a matchup we've cast this weekend. I don't recall it anyway.
We don't really have that much Totem Shaman in Europe. They have mostly just, all decided that they want to win too badly to bring this deck, and gone with the Evolved Shaman instead.
Ludicrous. Who thought that was a good idea? Just a little bit of a
But
background.
It's like you see all those videos of little tiny kittens trying to fight very well-trained dogs who are just putting up with it. You're always rooting for the little kitten, right? You know it's never going to win, but you're still rooting for it regardless.
One day, it might.
Yeah.
Just giving you some background here on Bunnyhoppor's Paladin. He does have a plethora of Murlocs in this list, so although it's not strictly Murloc Paladin, it is the Murloc Highlander. And that's just really a knock-on effect from Paladin just having some Murloc cards. Sungirl is just a good card. The weapon as well, the Underlight Healing Rod, just a good card itself, so it just happens to be the case. But there's a Finley and there's a Demon's Bite.
Is the Rogue Dagger better, though? That's the question. Persistent, you can hero power once and kill 2 totems with it, maybe. It was worth considering. I don't know.
I just think
either way,
this is such a big deal, right?
Either way, in the words of TJ, Boston's opponent has played a card. He can't win anymore.
1 mana, kill a toad. Look at Boston's face. He's just like, okay, game 3. And also, we can see that there's Argent Squire, there's Zephyrus, there's Consecrate. I think if you just removed Bunnyhoppor's whole hand, he's still got a good chance at winning this game. But he's allowed to play his other cards.
Yes.
Unfair.
Okay, so serious points. What does Bozzzton need to do here? He needs to find a special totem, i.e. Mana Tide or probably Evil Totem as well. And probably a Totemic Might in his next 2 draws, and then try and land everything together, and then maybe rip Splitting Axe off the top, and then maybe if your opponent doesn't play any other cards, that might work.
Let me think.
I've not got much else for you. The one thing I will say is, in testing and from viewing more of the deck being played, generally it does have time, if it needs to play a little bit slower, to make that one big board. It can make that one big board on, say, turn 5 or 6, and still have a good chance if the cards are correct, i.e. Totemic Reflection. There's a health buff for the totems, and as you said, if it's one of the special totems, that helps a million times over. So it has got time. It's not over quite yet, And it's not like Paladin has consistent hard removal for a big board. There's Zephyrus, and there's arguably Libram of Justice plus Consecrate.
Yeah.
Although I will still
This
say,
is
I
now...
think like running the Highlander Paladin without a Pyroblast, without a Pyromancer, does feel wrong for me. But anyway,
I wonder.
What was I going to say? Yeah, this is actually a pretty strong turn, all things considered, for Bozzzton. I mean, that's a spider tank. It's fine. Obviously, it's not the crazy power that we've seen Terran come up with in some actual warrior games, but still, spider tank there, pretty solid. He just needs to not lose the board from this position now, and he can actually start to snowball potentially. Problem is that he has like Consecrate and Zephyrus to push through, as you mentioned. But I think if there was like a smaller 3-drop this turn that maybe Zephyrus could deal with right now, he would potentially have done it. Just because if you never lose board against this deck, you probably never need a Zephyrus in your hand.
Could just Soulfire.
Could just Soulfire.
I wouldn't even hate it.
Zephyrus is very sketchy about Soulfires, though. You don't always get them.
Oh, there's one 4-health minion on the board? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it also has a Death Rattle, and Zephyrus doesn't know what this is, just that it's a Death Rattle, I would assume. Like, he doesn't... I don't think he knows that this Death Rattle isn't real.
Oh, not real? You're imaginary. I do think... Oh, okay, it's going for it first. Trade. I don't really think this is what Bunnyhoppor wanted at all.
Think you take water early?
Hey, I got you, friend.
No? Even with the coil.
I do think that Bunnyhoppor can be a little bit looser with his resources, just down to the nature of having the buffed Demon Hunter hero power. It's so good, he can almost throw away the cards he has in hand, right? Just use them very liberally.
But yeah, I was not surprised to not see Soulfire there. I think even if you make the trade, you still might not see Soulfire there. It really doesn't like giving it to you unless it's like super desperation, right? Like if this was like a 25-4, then yeah, sure, it'll probably give you Soulfire.
Like, no, I just still don't really like Soulfire that much, I'm afraid. I don't have any of those in stock.
Yeah.
I wonder.
And this is the tough part for Bozzzton here. Not that the whole game's not been tough for him, of course, but he has he has the totem, he has reflection, and he has surge. Not far away from making a bit of a spicy board, but he is far away in terms of mana. So he had the choice to just hold off for a little bit, use this Terran to just start, picking off this board, play the Battle Mage hero power, and wait. But instead, he has gone for the trade here and getting his Searing Totem up for it. I keep calling it Searing Totem. Flame Tongue Totem. Getting it vulnerable, which for me feels like a little bit scary. I think he had a chance to hold off for a little bit. But also, I'm not exactly a connoisseur of the old Totem Shaman, so maybe this just has to be done.
I think this is fine. I think it's the only play he had that doesn't just like concede board this turn, right? Like, he's asking for removal. You can see here, like, Bunny even has some removal, and it's still not even a full clear. Just gotta hero power it. Gotta be done.
And that's just fine, though, right? I think that's my issue here.
It is, yeah. It is fine.
Because Bunnyhoppor has the hero power, this totem always dies.
Well, here, I mean, okay, here's, like, the pertinent question. He has Demon Hunter hero power, right? But, like, what do you want Bozzzton to do?
Well, no. So my question, honestly, and again, I'm not saying this is the answer, but is it desperate enough for Bozzzton to have to hold off so he can potentially Totemic Reflection in the same turn as the big totem?
Oh, I see. I mean, I think...
No, I mean, like, I don't know if that's right, but
sure,
it's an option, and maybe that's what he has to do. He's not against removal Paladin. He's against a Paladin that runs a lot of tiny little cards, right?
Oh, goodness.
So,
the 1/1. Brutal.
Yeah.
I think if he waits 2 turns to do it, his chances go way down, right? Because it's just 2 turns of Bunny to just play whatever minion he draws. Like, maybe a Magic Carpet comes out, maybe the card taken from Zephyrus was a 4-drop for the next turn, so you just let him just play like Water Elemental onto the board or whatever, and then like, what are you doing from that position? Like, I think he had to play his cards.
Sure.
he's got Demon Hunter hero power, you know. Like
yeah, I didn't know if in this spot you have to just hold off for as long as possible and hope you draw like exactly the card. Like the Totemic Might in that meantime, so that you can give it more health with the reflection. You know what I mean? Like, and it's far fetched, and it's probably not going to happen. But sometimes you've got to hope for those options anyway. But regardless, the decisions.
So the other thing was like it was Flame Tongue Totem there, which we think of Flame Tongue Totem as a good totem, but it's really not that impressive to just make multiple copies of when Bunny can just fight back on board. Like, if Bozzzton's going to be greedy with this thing, I think it's far more likely that he waits for Evil Totem or Mana Tide to be able to pop off on. So I think like maybe even the Flame Tongue was more expendable a resource than you were giving it credit for.
Yep, honestly, I saw 3 health and was like, okay, that's pretty good. And obviously, there's the thing of if you Totemic Reflection it, then they buff each other, which makes the attack so much more higher, right?
Yeah.
But yes, it is not the value generation totems that you really. Bunnyhoppor can just drop Carpet along with this Hungry Crab and put a hero power in as well, which doesn't.
I must move quickly.
Carpet can then be followed up with a Pharaoh's Blessing or Hand of Adal plus X in the following turn as well. Looks like a good setup as far as I'm concerned, Soft.
He's saying clear your boards, you make a thing, I Pharaoh's Blessing your thing? I guess that's the plan?
Couldn't you
work out relatively well? Was it a board clear with Magic Carpet?
I want to say yes, but I don't.
No, there's only 2 minions attacking. Oh, 2 minions attacking plus the hero power. No, none of them kill the 3 health minion.
Oh, so he would have left a 1/1 up.
Yeah.
Well.
That Waste Warden off the top.
Yeah. Yeah. Bozzzton went for it. There's the nod, and it's just, well, that was his best chance, honestly.
Yeah.
Feels bad for Bozzzton. He did hold off, or kept hold of it. Got the Lackey Totem. But when even it mattered.
And this is, again, one of the huge catch-22s with the deck. Like, you want to wait for more buffs, like, Splitting Axe or whatever, to try and, like, spiral this Mana Tide out of control. But if you don't play the Mana Tide, you don't draw those cards, because you're not drawing through your deck quick enough. So, I think this is the best he can probably do, just protecting it behind the 0/4 taunt. Again, we're having lots of fun here, because Totem Shaman's involved, and it's kind of funny to... it's kind of amusing to make fun of Totem Shaman, but this is an incredibly high-stakes game of Hearthstone for Bozzzton right now.
Yeah.
He has his upper or lower division life on the line for the next 4 weeks. Ooh. Brazen Zealot is
can trade the Zealot into the 0/4, right, with the Carpet? If he plays another minion. Looks pretty good as far as I can see. That looks like... Oh, look! Another board play from Bunnyhoppor, but now he has even more minions. Looking at Hand of Adal instead of the Hungry Crab.
Do all of the above if he wants to. Skip the hero power just to develop. Hero power is so strong, I expect you to see it. Yep.
And with this Carpet, I think safe to say immortal until next turn at least. Means that this Hungry Crab can just rush next turn instead. Right, Bozzzton, can you get to 20 here? You've got a Lightning Bolt, a Lava Burst, and I hope that's Spell Damage Totem. You get another Lava Burst off the top. Is there a chance? Nope, because we can see an Amber Watcher.
Wasn't just digging for an out. Any out. I'm not seeing it. Like, even if he had, like, Infinity Mana, or Bunny left a spell damage totem up for some reason, and Bozzdton was able to copy the spell damage totem and get a second Lava Burst and rip it all, that's still only 19?
Yeah.
So he'd need to Goblin Lackey for the one extra. Again, this is like 35 mana in one turn I'm talking about here. But,
And Bunnyhoppor going and making a coffee or something, you know, as well, right? So
yeah.
It's incredible. And I'm sure you'll have a good idea here, but I don't think I've ever seen such a one-sided deck. It either looks incredible when it goes off, or it looks like you've not even brought cards to the game. It is such a weird deck. Not quite sure how and why it exists right now. It's so strange. Oh, okay.
Well, there it is.
So we're getting there. Why not? It's going to be Bozzzton effectively conceded, just showing Bunnyhoppor that, ooh, almost had you there, mate. They're not going to be good enough, though. Bunnyhoppor did have the Amber Watcher as well to heal up if so required, but that means Bunnyhoppor's going up to a smooth 2-0 lead here over Bozzdton. Bozzdton has one heck of a mountain to climb if he wants to win this series and get into the finals. It's going to be tough for him. Bunnyhoppor chose between Druid or Mage, and funnily enough, arguably the two best of his four classes in terms of just overall class power right now. So
yeah,
Bunnyhoppor's in a good spot.
He is, and Bozzdton is now very much not so, just in this series in isolation, and overall in the season as a whole, because this is basically the end of this series will resolve our division breakdown for the round robin portion of the game. Felkane is now guaranteed already after Psycho losing earlier. Psycho is sat waiting to see his fate, which also hinges on this game. If Bozzdton wins, he will be the final spot in the upper division. If Bozzdton loses, Psycho will be the final spot in the upper division. So Bozzdton is not just one game away from losing this series and being out of the standings for this week. He is one game loss away from being in the lower division for the next 4 weeks running, which is there's so much on the line now. Bozzdton just needs this reverse sweep from this position.
There really is, and like I said, it's going to be an uphill climb, not only because he needs to win many games of Hearthstone in a row against Bunnyhoppor, but just the decks he has available to him. I think Bozzdton is a fantastic player, but I don't think the decks quite are up to standard when you compare him to some of the other lineups we've seen. Again, he is here, he is in the semi-finals, so he's done something right. But when you just look at Bunnyhoppor's lineup versus Bozzdton's, not even just going from decks, but even card choices within those decks, archetypes, just everything just looks like a bit more polished, a bit more thought out from Bunnyhoppor.
Well, it looks like Bozzdton is going to let it rock here, Raven. He's going out how he came in, on the back of this Totem Shaman. He's going to need to pick up a win. And I will say, this against Highlander Mage is one of the matchups where I feel like Totem Shaman actually makes some sense. Because like you were talking about previously in the series, in the game before, about just taking your time and having a slightly slower setup.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that against Mage. They can't consistently kill your totems over and over and over again.
Right.
As long as they don't have like a really aggressive minion curve, which is hard for them to get with their deck. You can just wait a little bit and sort of pop off on turn 5, turn 6, like you were saying. And then, Bunny's going to struggle to answer that without, immediately re-knowing the first board, for example, which,
right,
of course, can happen sometimes.
Let's see how it is going to go. It's interesting just to see what some of the mulligans are looking like. Surging Tempest kept, along with a Beaming Psychic. So Bozzdton not going all in on just, okay, perfect totem, get those duplicates going up. He is wanting some early pressure in general anyway, which I can definitely get behind. Bunnyhoppor, in the meantime, does have that Ooze available to him, and Nova and the ever scary Dragon Caster, which can flip games on its head.
Yeah, we didn't really reference it, I guess. We obviously saw all the lava bursts and so on that Bozzzton drew last game, but we didn't really say that. That's because his deck is built actually much more aggressively than a lot of other people's version of the deck. And we see now he's playing the Vicina as well. He's only playing a single copy of Bloodlust, and of course Vicina essentially just being Bloodlust number 2 in the deck. But then double lava burst on top of that, as well as double lightning bolt, means that if he can just get some damage through early, even he might be in that position where Bunnyhoppor has to freeze or drop taunts in the mid game and late game, and Bozzzton can just kill him over the top with that extra burst damage that he has. I think he actually has multiple paths to a win condition in this matchup.
I've got a question for you, Sol.
Go on.
If people want to see Totem Shaman become a thing, or more of a thing, should I say? What if the developers took Corsair Cash away from Warrior and gave it to Totem Shaman? How about that? Would that be enough?
That would not solve the problem.
Oh, really? Okay.
No. Why would that solve the problem?
Get Splitting Axe more consistently, and you can make even more totems with the extra durability you get.
But you spend turn 2 doing nothing, which is already the problem that you have.
That's fine. Your opponent's probably played a minion anyway, so it doesn't matter.
If they played a minion, you've already lost. That's the problem.
Maybe if you can make 100 totems.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Do you see the Swampoos come down to contest the Elemental here from Bozzzton? Quite well, although Lightning Bolt. Some removal. It's going to slow down his following turns, but honestly, Bozzzton doesn't really have follow-up turns anyway, for at least turn 3, so I wouldn't mind Lightning Bolt and Psychic.
It does lock him out of a turn next turn unless he wants to use the coin.
What does he want to do, though? That's just based on exactly his draw, whereas he can still hero power.
Sure. But the other option is just to, coin... okay. Cool, it's fine.
This was good, otherwise he's just sacrificing his minion to the ooze, which
agreed.
Often a problem. And also just 2/5 now. Pretty good. Flame Ward from Bunnyhoppor, which again is not common in a mage list you would see on ladder, but again a lot of the players have given a good nod to the format, even if their deck is already running a lot of removal like mage does. Just that extra cheaper way to just maybe knock some of these games on the head when it's just the Totem Shaman, the Murloc Paladin you would be expecting. And even a side effect of Druid as well, right? Flame Ward does get some work done if you're expecting these exact matchups.
Yep. So the curve seems to be logical here, that if you go Astromancer Solarian, that hits the 2/5, either on Bozzzton's turn or yours, right? Because there's very few ways that Bozzzton has to prevent that with only 2 mana available this turn. And then after that happens, you can play the Flame Ward, and the Flame Ward looks pretty spicy the turn after.
Yep, looks good to me. And even now, Bunnyhoppor isn't facing down a ton of damage, is it? So it's not as if, this is a risky play because I could get Huffed this turn or something and take tons of damage. It's just not going to happen, as you said, especially with that overload. So I do like this.
Shaman always has a way to mess with you, though. Because now, Bozzzton does have a way of preventing that trade plus Flame Ward from happening. But I think he might just end up making the trade anyway. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, it's weird though, right? Because if he doesn't trade, and then Flame Ward comes down, well, that puts the elements in ping range anyway.
Yep. So now weird reads really do start to come into the game, because of course the reason Bozzzton does that and so aggressively protects his totem is that he has Totemic Reflection and Splitting Axe. So totems are worth their weight in gold. So Bunnyhoppor might say, well, if I Flame Ward here, it's just not going to do anything anyway, because Bozzzton's going to buff his totem system. Spot on. Play the taunt and get on with it.
Also, slowly getting to the point in the game for Bunnyhoppor where it's getting a little bit likely, especially with his hand, that he can not only just play Flame Ward, Frost Nova, but he can start pinging to just set up some removals or just reduce some effectiveness of the totem duplications and such. Whereas so far in the early game, he's had a lot to do actually, which is not common. Considering he had Ooze, Solarian, and now the Bone Wraith. It's a pretty solid early game for Bunnyhoppor.
Right.
what to do.
Generally, you want to totemic reflection before you speak. You want to go for it, you'd have to do it in that order if he wants the full value.
There is little time.
Sides rather have one totem than the extra spell damage.
I wonder whether they do spell damage just because the taunt totem that uses 0-2 protects the 2 buffed ones from being hit.
Mm.
And it's interesting that does he just value? But the reason I'm doing here on the taunt totem. Okay, okay, now I'm confused. I thought he was doing it on the taunt totem because he wanted to trade this turn. But for me, if he's not trading, isn't the spell damage totem just better?
Is it? I mean, having the big taunts stops this Bone Wraith from being able to like pick up value trades at all, which has value when you have Vicina in your hand as well. It's not just about totems for this deck, right? Like other minions plus Storm's Wrath plus Vicina plus Lightning Bolts and Lava Burst is a plan as well.
Yeah, I was more just meaning the one taunt totem's there that the Bone Wraith has to go into anyway. And then you just have 2 spell damage instead of the taunt. I don't know. I felt like if he was buffing the taunt totem, the attacks maybe should have come in there.
Time runs out on me.
Sure. I think this is a Flame Ward turn though. Yep. And you bump into one of the totems and ping the other.
It looks pretty reasonable, puts everything in Flame Ward range. If Bozzzton wants to do something about that, then can he really buff multiple totems to keep them safe? This is where you just love it if they were healing totems.
Oh,
right?
He sure can, Raven! He sure can!
Now we've got a game of Hearthstone.
Alright, everyone, pay attention. You're not going to hear this very often. That totemic might draw was the nuts.
Does he hold back on the axe this turn, though?
Why would you?
Sorry for the delay. Sneeze. Because does he need to roll a healing? Or is he not going to attack?
Wait, what? Why wouldn't you attack? I'm so confused by all of these words, Raven.
Well, so the only issue here is the range of attacking into Blizzard turn.
Okay.
And I know he probably has to attack to win the game, but he's got to expect this is going to be a Flame Ward. He has a kind of 50% chance anyway. Yeah. But also, this is just so scary to Blizzard. I don't know. This is probably what he has to help himself.
I was just like, yeah, I mean, what's your play that plays around Blizzard? Do nothing, still get blizzarded, and then not have a board anyway?
Blizzarded?
Blizzarded, yeah.
Is that correct?
I mean, it's a made-up word. All words are made-up words.
Well, regardless, it's a big push from Bozzzton, and Bunnyhoppor does not have tons to say about it. Does have Nova and does have Ice Barrier, so it is going to stall out a little bit. Outside of that, the CMAT's not going to be good enough. How much health is on the board? 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, wow, Rena would have been...
Is it actually exactly
an exact
10?
board clear?
6, 7, 8, 10. Yeah.
I wonder.
I don't think there's a need to play Dragoncaster, right?
No. You hold it because there's just so many outs that you can use for the clear, pretty sure.
And then, okay, my next question. Does he actually hold the barrier and ping one of the totems instead? Probably better, right? It's off mana. It means he still has Ice Barrier in hand and not live. He kills it.
For a show.
Job done.
Really? Bunnyhoppor did the exact opposite of everything we were talking about that turn.
One thing I will say is not pinging and playing the barrier does stop Bozzzton playing other minions. So it wasn't just, oh, well, you always ping if you have the mana. There is a decent amount of merit to playing Ice Barrier there, just to lock out.
Yeah, I actually wasn't on board with the ping suggestion, but I was very on board with holding the Dragoncast. take a look at Bunny's list. Might be that he's missing some spells that I think he's running that could contribute to this decision.
Straight to the bottom, Yogbox. No, he's running it.
But yeah, he is playing the Blizzard, but he can naturally cast a Blizzard if he draws it anyway. He's not playing Deep Freeze. He is playing the one copy of Power of Creation. So actually, there's only 2 outs that are relevant, right? The Puzzle Box and the Power of Creation. Any other spell that gets drawn here, he can just straight up play anyway. Rolling Fireball, Blizzard, and then obviously he still has like Waste Warden as an out as well on top of all of that. So yeah, I guess 4/4 in play with all that factored in might just have enough upside to justify that.
Interesting choices again, though, isn't it? Because it's not just a straight up Tiamat a lot of the time here.
Time runs out on me.
With Tiamat, Wind Fury Rush, kill 2, very distance. You wouldn't be able to ping. You can barrier to gain the 8 health and ping if you want. You could also do Twilight Drake, but I think he has to ping this turn, so the Twilight Drake's not going to make the cut down.
Showing
17?
20, and he's at 22, so overload into Vicina is guaranteed lethal here.
Wait, showing 20?
We're showing 20, yeah. Oh, 17, 17,
Yeah,
17.
I was like, for a second I was like, I counted twice and got 17 twice.
It was 17, yeah.
Okay. Well, either way, that is going to be Bozzzton getting a win. He's not going to go out 0-3. The Totem Shaman is maybe redeemed is a bit of a strong word there, but it got a win, which is worthy to celebrate and buy. But Bozzzton still has a chance as he fights back.
Yeah, like I said, you can just kind of slow down that matchup a little bit. It's not quite the same thing where your opponent is just going to play 1-drop into 2-drop, and then, you know, their like hero power is more efficient than yours, and you just end up losing board and all that kind of nonsense. Mage doesn't really do that. Like, maybe they might have like one Zephyrus in the early game with a backstab or something, or you know, Acidic Swampoos as we saw in that. But if you can deal with that one problem, you're then pretty much scot-free until turn 6, turn 7-ish. At which point, if you've popped off with the big board, there are very specific things that the mage needs to be able to deal with you, and Bunny just did not have those.
Right, and now it starts to get a little bit more interesting in terms of just how the decks line up, because if Bunny goes for his mage again, he could run into Bozzzton's Hunter and take another loss, which seems reasonable, which means then I feel like we're quite likely to go to that 5th match just to decide the outcome. There's still Druids up for both players, there's Paladin up for Bozzzton, Mage up for Bunnyhoppor, so yeah, I'm interested to see how this plays out, actually. I really want to know if Bunnyhopper's just going to queue that Mage again, or if he's going to switch it up and go for Druid here. Just gotta check. Bozzdton's Paladin is the Murloc, I believe.
Bozzzton does just have straight up Murloc Paladin, yes.
Okay. So yeah, kind of a tough call here, actually, in terms of just seeing what you want to line up into. Because obviously, I think you would want the Druid into the Hunter, but you wouldn't want the Druid into the Murloc Paladin. And I don't think anyone wants to play Druid Mirrors, so...
Yeah, especially not Bunnyhoppor, because he has 0 Starfalls, and Bozzzton does, so I think he's unfavored in that one as well. So yeah, I really think the Druid is kind of a skip for Bunnyhoppor in this series. I think he just has to keep running Mage, which, yes, it does have a couple of unfavorables, but nowhere near as bad as the Druid ones are, I think. Like, this matchup, we talk about it being bad, it's winnable, because you're Mage, and any matchup is winnable, because you're Mage.
Full mulligan there for Bozzzton. Nothing looked too appeasing as far as I'm concerned. This looks a little bit better. As Bozzzton on the Hunter there. Bunnyhoppor has access to that Astromancer Solarian. It's a nice early 2-drop to help contest some minions. I think the Rusted Raider and the Waste Warden are going to say bye-bye. Maybe even the Solarian. But for me, I like getting that, and not only the early minion down, but getting that prime in the deck as early as possible.
Rusted Raider has impressed me just about every time I've seen it played on turn 5, or even turn 4 with the coin. So I'm curious how often that card actually ever gets kept in Mage.
It's weird, it's a card I'm not a massive fan of personally, but I definitely see the merits of running it, and we've seen it get some work done. Maybe it's just better in this meta than it is versus the general ladder.
Yeah, I mean, almost certainly that is a factor.
already this is starting to look like a hand that can deal with Hunter from Bunnyhoppor here. Not only the Bone Wraith to just help with the awkward early game minions, but the Reno, and then obviously the ever-present Dragoncaster, and most importantly, a Dragon to activate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and reasonable stability alongside that. Something to contest this first minion so he doesn't take an enormous beating. Big problem number one is going to be this Fairy Dragon, potentially, though, because we do know how much of a nightmare that is for Mage to deal with. Does make this Battle Mage extremely important for Bozzzton as well, because now if you look at it the other way, Bozzzton is able to very easily deal with 3-2 and then just continue developing with his more aggressive minions. Once that hump has been crossed from Bunnyhoppor, could be smooth sailing depending on what we see to accompany this Dragoncaster.
Quickly.
I think I like the Dormant minion this turn, honestly.
Really? I am surprised.
It feels weird, right?
Oh,
that's a good one. Mainly because Bozzzton has a lot of 2-drops and nothing else to fill the curve, so he's going to be going probably 2-drop, 2-drop, and then X afterwards. And I think having the Dormant come out a little bit earlier might pay off a bit more for him. Kind of tough to navigate, but they were both really good turns because they're just very unintractable for the mage, no matter what you play.
I'm a simple man, Raven. I just want to hit him with a Fairy Dragon twice. I don't want to wait 2 turns for my thing to come out of his dormancy.
No patience.
I have plenty of patience, but if you want to be patient, you've picked the wrong class. Like, this is Hunter. So let's giddy up.
Oh no, sometimes you want to draw out killing. Make them really feel bad.
Raven!
You agreed instantly, then realised.
No, but it was just the way that you said it. It was so sinister. Like, I'm actually quite scared of you right now.
Good. Anyway, although I mentioned earlier about Boom Pistol's performance in this mini meta, versus Mage it does also get some work done, right? There are a good amount of Battlecry cards in Mage. So Boom Pistol, I mentioned Rogue, and obviously like the lack of Rogue in what we've seen over the weekend, apart from that very strange one match, which is still technically a lack of Rogue, between Psycho and Pavel. The Boom Pistol is a good card in this matchup, I feel, and one where I can see get some work done versus many of the other matchups.
I wonder.
And it's, why it's a logical inclusion, right? Because Bozzzton gets to choose which deck Bunnyhoppor plays in this 4th spot. So if he's going to make it Mage in a lot of series, then yeah, Boom Pistol Bully starts to make some sense. If you want to chalk up a point to Raven, then obviously having the 5-attack guy attacking this turn, if it was played 1 turn earlier, could have been huge in the way the turn played out.
Yeah, especially with the Corrosive, right? Even the attack in general to kill the first bit of the Bone Wraith would have been nice, but with the Corrosive Breath, it would have been so clean.
Yep. That is a 4/6 Twilight Drake. It's pretty nice in the current scenario.
Oh, good boy.
Good boy. Who's a good fell?
Say, but look good. Boom Pistol looks fine, honestly, as well. There is the coin to make the gap into 7/7, actually. So, on reflection, I think Boom Pistol looks fantastic. Good here.
I wonder.
It's got to be, doesn't it?
It's pretty likely to live as well because the Twilight Drake just goes into the Felmore so easily, so cleanly.
Yeah.
It's unlikely that the Boom Pistol gets dealt with as well. Like, that's just pretty impressive. I think what would it take? A Rolling Fireball, I guess, to deal with this?
You just have to not get Reno'd this turn, and don't get Reno, don't get scammed by Dragoncaster, and then you're chilling, right?
Coin 7/7, yeah.
Yep. Had to be the Boom Pistol turn, I think.
I wonder if this is ever just Nova and push. Just say, well, fine.
think the Nova is really important, right? Because it stops you getting coin Dino Tamered in the face. That's a really big deal.
Yeah. I mainly mean
What
not
to
trading
do?
for Bunnyhoppor here.
To do.
Don't know if it particularly needs to. Love the flame pistol.
Time runs out on me.
He's still thinking about it. He knows what this means. Like, if he chooses not to do this, it's a conscious decision to not play around the card. Like, he fully understands what the situation is right now.
There we go. The biggest push for me would be, look at the rest of his hand. It's great. He can Dragon cast a Power of Creation if he's got the time. If not, he has Reno to do tons of damage and clean up a board. So I feel like because he's got 2 great turns, depending on what Bozzzton does, you just almost may as well play the Nova. And a lot of the time, you shouldn't play cards in Hearthstone just because you can. You mainly should play them because they're good at that spot. But I feel like now it does bridge a very, very good gap. And as you quite rightly pointed out, of course, stops the Dino Tamer coming down and just King Crushing for 8. Which would put him in a Hunter can just hero power me to death kind of life total.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, good luck, like, you know, play your Dragon Caster Power of Creation, your Reno over the next couple of turns. I'm just going to press this button up here real quick, and you're dead.
I moves quickly.
Wind Fury Shield Tiamat? Rush Shield Tiamat?
I don't mind Rush Shield, it puts a lot of health.
That's exactly 10 health on the board.
True.
It's kind of upsetting. Like, I think this is just...
Does he? Okay, I guess not. I was wondering whether he ever played Tiamat back.
I wonder.
Probably just not as good. I think he really wants this bone rate on the board.
So he could trade with the Twilight Drake, like take an inefficient trade and then play Reno, so just to protect his 2/1 taunt?
You can do it anyway, right? Any order.
There's 11 health on board, so something's a vital one, yeah. Doesn't matter.
I like this, though. I like this. Let's see where he puts the... What he just chooses to trade into here. Because we can see the bone rate is doing insane levels of work right now.
Yeah.
Time runs out
And
on
soon, what's good for Bunnyhoppor is if he just survives this, if he holds off Brand for just a turn or so, he has Alexstrasza, which means as long as he can deal with the King Crush, he can recover. And look at this play. This is winning Bunnyhoppor the game right now, and it is such a weird play.
Derek Brown, are you watching? Top 5 plays right there. That's sick. Like, it doesn't look that impressive when you're just looking at the game state. You're like, well, yeah, he's got a Dino Tamer Brand, but just, like, the recognition to do that blind over a couple of turns, 2 turns in a row now, he's played around that card. So sick.
Frustrating here for Bozzzton in this spot because his cards just don't quite do what he wants them to. He needs something a little bit reactive. And a weapon would be glorious, regardless of whether it's Desert Spear or the Stormhammer. What he really wants to do here is look at a setup. He wants to open up the board so he can get this Dino Tamer Brand and most importantly the King Crush to the face, and then have access to that Zephyrus to just end the game. Can't quite set that up in a clean way, and there's Bone Raid. Give that guy a medal.
Give that man an eyebrow.
Yeah.
Oh, feeling generous.
Lethal?
How many Pyroblasts are in the box? That's the question. It's probably just Tiamat, though.
Yeah.
Responsibly.
The difference this has made, though. The fact that King Crush has not been able to go to face is huge. The kill. The guarding of his own health for Bunnyhoppor. 17 is the world of difference in terms of safety versus Hunter than what, 9? It's Not even close.
Mm-hmm. Now he's just chilling. He could be proactive next turn instead of having to panic about Alexstrasza. You know, he can invest mana into dealing with the board or building bigger boards than Alexstrasza would anyway.
What about honestly Alexstrasza to Bozzzton's face and go aggressive?
That was the first thing I said. I said he could be aggressive with Alexstrasza now if he wanted
I thought
to
you
be.
said and not worry about Alexstrasza. Oh, you know about Bozzzton's Alexstrasza?
Hmm?
I thought you said and not bother with the Alexstrasza. That's why I was like, wait, what?
Oh, sure, yeah. There are many Alexstrazas.
Yeah,
that we're
I was
getting
like, wait.
confused about right now. Yeah.
Apologies. There's just a wild card that is Solarian Prime, right?
Yep.
And we talk a lot about, lethal, the card's insane. The card is very good. It can do a lot less sometimes, right? It can just, like, draw you some cards.
Yeah, Arcane Explosion.
Yeah,
it
it can do less. It doesn't just pyroblast your opponent in the face until you die.
Yeah. That's, what's it called? Rod of Roasting? Is that what that
Yeah.
card was called?
I think I just like Dragon cast the Power of Creation here. Because one, that is just a board-winning board. I guess game-winning board. That's what I meant to say.
Board-winning board. Yes.
You know what I mean? That's a game-winning board against Hunter, right? They do not really have access to ways to deal with that level of power. And 17, even with the Mana Saber down, is still extremely safe, which is why, again, the Bone Raid was just so good. Because it's let Bunnyhoppor do this turn, which has opened up the game. For not Bunnyhoppor to only survive being smoked down by Hunter, but for him to be aggressive and actually win. And now, especially with Cairn, even the attack with Zephyrus Twisting Nether does not really help him out. Insane.
Yeah. It's why I think this Mana Saber was a big deal last turn from Bozzzton. I actually think this is really smart on his part because it gave him so many Zephyrus options. That, if this was like the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza turn, for example, from Bunnyhoppor, well, boom, attack, Zephyrus Twisting Nether. Same thing should have happened a lot of the time here, right, against the Power of Creation board, but the Cairn just even plays around it.
Even just, it's the flexibilities of all of the turn 10s, right? Maybe in a Demon, and he gets lethal somehow, depending on what happens. If Bunnyhoppor played, I don't know, a weird box and it hurt himself.
He played Pyroblast himself in the face.
Right, box.
I'm with you.
But then there's also just Tyrion to drop down to put something in the way of a big minion. There were so many options that have just been thrown away.
His push was actually even bigger. Yeah. This was actually a really smart setup for Bozzzton because he had Varanus Varanus attack Zephyrus into Arcane Explosion. So he's actually counter swinging a Dragon Queen Alexstrasza from that turn. Like as much as we were talking about Bunny's good play that did pay off for him early, that is equally good play for Bozzzton that just got wrecked because Hearthstone is like that sometimes. But like it's an equally good piece of play from Bozzzton, I would say, in that spot.
Yes. Very funny as well that like always targets your opponent's minions, aggressively when possible. Conjurer's Calling ? It's always a weird one from Solarian Prime that.
All of these cost 1. It's just like
no missiles.
Yeah.
No damage from it.
Not
now. Not now. Oh no,
Runs out on me.
No.
No, it can't. Yep.
Bunnyhoppor going. Wait, how many cards have I played this game? Bozzzton questioning everything now. But like you said, I think Bozton's played very well. It's just the setup. The swing turn for Bunnyhoppor was just so huge.
Well, it's because it was a big death rattle specifically that Bozzzton's setup just got piled. Like it was Cairn or the new 5/6 called like Dragon Maw Poacher or something like that, right?
And then to a certain extent, but way less safeguard because something would have lived, but it wouldn't have been anywhere near as good. We'll just stall out the game a little bit longer, but congratulations to Bunnyhoppor as he gets his spot in the final of the third and final week of Swiss of Grandmasters, and commiserations to Bozzzton. It was a losing match that he very much needed to win.
Very
What
much
does that
so.
mean, Sottle?
It means that we have now solved our divisions. All the ifs and buts and maybes are out of the window, and it means that it is Psycho and Felkane who are taking our last two spots in Division A alongside Swids, Yarla, Boar, Silvername, Bunnyhoppor, and Hunter Ace. So that is our full Division A. If your favorite player's name was not just read out on that list, I feel like that's such a school teacher thing to say. If you didn't hear your name, that means you're on the naughty list. Then you're in Division B, unfortunately. But again, that does not mean your season is over. Everything is still possible from Division B. You are just at higher risk of relegation, and it is tougher for you to qualify for the season finals, but you can still do it. So, Bozzzton is very much still alive, and I think if he continues to play as well as we've seen him playing so far on stream, I think he'll be.
Yep, and just a reminder as well, the 4 weeks of round robin will be regular conquest, so we're going to be seeing some of your old favourites, demon hunters, rogues and warriors back in the pool. A lot of the decks / classes that these players have a much more recent experience with as well, so we'll get to see that in the next following few weeks. But for now, we have our final match to get ready for, which is going to be Swids versus Bunnyhoppor to decide who is going to take the final. And also, both players just been very consistent this season. We didn't see Bunnyhoppor in the first week, but since then he's been here every week for the last 2 weekends. And just Swids and Bunnyhoppor looking fantastic, actually. It's going to be the pretty crazy final, I think.
Yeah, I think it absolutely will. I think these two, no matter what happens here, this is very much off the top of my head, so don't take this one with a pinch of salt, will be 1 and 2 in the standings of the all three Swiss weeks combined together overall. So very impressive performance from both of these players, and no real more fitting way to end the 3 weeks of qualifying Swiss rather than having the best two players in terms of consistency throughout those 3 weeks meeting up against each other in the finals.
Yeah, and as is always the case, before we get into the finals, we're going to just give players just a little bit of a minute to rest and get ready for their final match of the week. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the final of this week's of Hearthstone Grandmasters.